All right.
All right. Well, look like the numbers stabilized a little bit. There may be a few more coming in, but my name is Min Tai, and I'm with I'm the Executive Director of Building Planning with the City of Santa Ana. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for participating tonight. We really appreciate your participation in this community roundtable. So with this meeting, the city is kicking off the mandatory update of our housing element in preparation for complying with the 2021 through 2029 planning cycle for the state housing and community development in order to meet the state housing law. So with your participation, our goal is to identify and distill the housing needs within our community for the upcoming planning cycle. We also want to work to outline a balanced approach to meeting those needs. And finally, our goal is to deliver to our city council a draft updated housing element that reflects our community values, but also meets state housing law. I want to share with you, with me tonight, share with you the name of our staff. We have Melanie McCann. She is the principal planner and also the project manager for this process. We have Judson Brown. He is the housing division manager. We have senior planner Margarita Macedonio, as well as assistant planner Alyssa Ventura. They will be helping us to facilitate this meeting. And as part of this roundtable, we have a presentation for you. Melanie is going to go over some information as well as outlining for you what to expect out of this process. So with that, I want to say again, thank you for joining us tonight. Your time is valuable to us. And, we're sure that this process will be productive for all of you as well as for our community. So Melanie, if you can please go over the agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Min. And welcome everyone. I wish we could see everyone's faces, but you can see us, I suppose. So tonight with the roundtable, we want to, of course, welcome you, and we'll touch on affirming, as Min mentioned, the purpose of the roundtable. We'll provide a quick overview of the housing element, so we're all on the same page, as well as very broadly touch on existing housing need information, and then also look at how are we approaching accommodating that future housing need. Then we'll open up for discussion and comments, and then we'll talk about our next steps and our next couple of roundtables. So with
Melanie.
that,
Hi, Melanie.
Hi, go ahead, Margarita.
We just wanted to make a quick announcement, a brief announcement that Spanish interpretation is available for tonight's meeting. And to access the feature on Zoom, if you can go to the globe at the bottom to select Spanish, tenemos un anuncio breve. La interpretación al español está disponible para la reunión esta noche. Para acceder a la función de interpretación de Zoom, vaya al globito en el menú de Zoom a continuación y seleccione español. Gracias. And Melanie, I'll just put this also on the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Margarita. So again, we wanted to just touch on the purpose of us gathering this roundtable, if you will. And it's a gathering of representatives from our local community serving organizations, resident representatives, and those as well from our housing industry, all the partners that make up the picture of housing in our community. And as Min mentioned, the role of the roundtable is to assist staff in the beginning of shaping the housing element policy and programs and those things within the existing element that need to be improved, refined, or strengthened. And then the last great benefit of the roundtable as well is the building of relationships, continuing to building relationships to promote housing to serve Santa Ana. And with that, I wanted to take the opportunity, or we wanted to take the opportunity to have everyone do a really brief introduction so we all can get to know each other a little bit better, this roundtable of housing folks. And to do that, we'd ask that you do three things. One, just if you could state your name, state the organization that you're affiliated with, and then answer the question, if you can, in one word. What does housing mean to you? So for example, my name is Melanie McCann. I'm with the Cities of Santa Ana's Planning Division. And what housing means to me is respite. So there's no wrong or right answer. But if we could then go through, and if Carl, if you're with us tonight, if you would be the next one to introduce yourself and answer the question in one word. Carl, are you with us?
Go ahead, Carl. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
So as Carl's unmuting, again, the opportunity is for us to get to know everyone around the round table a little bit more, and the groups that are represented here tonight.
Very good. Hi, my name's Carl Benninger. I'm Vice President of Comlink. And when I think of housing, I think of security, a place where I can be safe.
Thanks, Carl. The next person, Victor, if you're with us, if you could introduce yourself. Victor Kao.
Hi there. My name is Victor Kao. I'm the Senior Vice President for Public Affairs of the California Apartment Association. And what housing means to me is advancement. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for being here tonight. Jeremy, are you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Jeremy Kogan from Santa Ana Unified School District, Director of Facilities Planning. And I think housing to me, one word, gosh, means opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy, for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
Barry, are you with us tonight?
Yes, I am, Melanie. Thank you.
Sure. Would you?
Barry Cottle, CNC Development, local affordable housing developers. Melanie, I had, hope this works as one word, as two words, just a quality supply.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Barry. Thanks for being with us tonight. Cesar, are you with us?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Cesar Covarrubias, Executive Director of the Kennedy Commission. My word was opportunity, but I'll take a second stab at it. I think it's also security. That was also mentioned. I had another one that I wanted to say, but I just forgot it. So let me move on and I'll put it in the chat.
That sounds great. Well, it sounds like we're all on similar wavelengths, so that sounds like a good thing. Thanks for being with us, Cesar. Celica, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Celica Diaz. I live in the Pacific Park neighborhood. I work as a property manager for the past 26 years. So I manage 4 different buildings located in the area. And I'm also a Pacific Park neighborhood leader. And what was the other question?
What one word would you say is what housing means to you?
It's home and unity.
I'm sorry?
Home and unity.
More than one word for
More than one word. Just home.
Home. Okay. Very good. Thank you so much, Celica.
Thank you.
Dale, are you with us tonight?
Go ahead, Dale.
So you could state your name, the group.
Here I am. Dale Helvik, Ward 3, Park Santiago, representing the neighborhood area up here. And first word that actually popped to my mind was density.
Okay. Thank you, Dale. Thanks for joining us tonight. Carla, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Carla Juarez. I'm a resident of Santa Ana and a leader in Henninger Park. I'm an advocate, an activist, a community organizer among other hats. And what housing is to me, or what a house is to me, is sanctuary.
What was the word?
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Very good. Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks so much, Carla. Stephen, are you with us tonight? Steve? Going once, going twice. Steve Lamont? All right. Maybe he'll be joining us later. Marianne, are you with us tonight?
Oh, we have a message from Victor that Steve is running late.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. And is Marianne been able to join in?
Yes. we have Marianne.
Great.
Okay, my name is Marianne Lowy. I am the president of the board of directors of L'Arche Wavecrest, which is an organization that provides homes for persons with intellectual disabilities. And housing means to me community.
Thank you, Marianne. Thanks for sharing your time with us tonight. Let's see, Irlanda.
Hi everyone, my name is Irlanda Martinez. I'm a Ward 3 resident and community advocate, but today I'm here representing the Community Development and Housing Commission. And my one word is equity.
Great. Thanks so much, and thanks for being with us tonight. The next person would be Ray. Are you with us, Ray? We'll check back with Ray Diaz. The next person to introduce themselves would be Paola.
I see her now.
Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Paola Padilla. I'm the director of the Santa Ana Early Learning Initiative. My word is stability.
Great. Thank you so much. The next person for introductions is Kyle. Kyle, are you with us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. I've not figured out how to work this system yet. So I had two things written down, community. So, well, I should step back. Kyle Payne, president of Community Development Partners, affordable housing developer. I had two things written down, community and equity, both were taken. So my third is inclusion.
Very good.
Melanie, we have Ryan on.
Ray?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Is it maybe someone else?
Yeah, I confused
that last
him.
name Diaz?
Okay. No, I confused it. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Is there someone here from City Ventures? Kim? Oh, one more call for someone from City Ventures. I think Kim wasn't able to make it tonight and was going to have a.
Oh, Ryan is there from City Ventures. So.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Ryan, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Ryan A., Senior Vice President, City Ventures. We're a residential developer and home builder. And to me, housing means family. It's where I gather with my family. It's where we grow our families. I think it's about fostering family.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks very much. The next one for introductions is Yusuri.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel Ramos. I'm a resident of Santa Ana, have lived in several neighborhoods throughout the city, and I'm participating here representing the Planning Commission. I'm happy to be here. And my word is stability.
Stability. Thank you so much. The next person would be Gina.
Good evening, everyone. Gina Scott, Executive Director of Homemade Orange County and resident of Floral Park here in Santa Ana. I'm excited to be here tonight. And my one word is housing is essential.
Very good. Thanks, Gina. And is Hilda with us tonight?
Yes, hi everyone. Ila Ortiz with Latino Health Access. I had also thought about stability, but I will add housing is health.
Is health?
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, Hilda. The next, we have just a few more. Luis, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, this is Luis Sarmiento with Thrive Santana. And the word that's coming to mind is history.
Ah, thank you, Luis. Very good. The next person for introductions is Adalia.
I don't see Idalia.
Okay. And do you see Tracy? Was Tracy able to make it tonight?
I don't see Tracy. We do have a hand raised.
Okay, very good.
From Jesus Santana.
Okay. There might be a few folks added that weren't able to email back.
Okay. Go ahead, Jesus.
Hi, thank you, Margarita. Hello, everyone. Jesus Santana. I am a community organizer supporting the Sullivan and Acción group. And for me, the word that comes to mind is safety.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I think that covers everyone. If anyone has not been able to be introduced that wasn't on the list, please raise your hand and we'll have some introductions. I see Myra.
Mireya.
Mireya.
Go ahead, Mireya.
This is Mireya Gutierrez, and I'm just a resident from Santana. And I don't know what was, I know I got in a little bit late, so I guess we had to choose a word or something like that.
So I think what we'll do is sort of round this out a little bit. We were, for the folks asked to be on the round table, we were asking you to share your name, the organization you're affiliated with, and in one word, what housing means to you.
I don't know, I'm gonna pass on that. I have to think about it. Sorry.
And could you clarify your name and the organization that you're with? You said you're a Santa Ana resident.
Yeah, my name is Mireya Gutierrez, and I am just a Santana resident.
You're a very special Santa Ana resident. There's no just Santa Ana residents. But thank you. I think at this point, I'll pull back into the presentation. And if anyone was left out, if they could comment in the chat, and Margarita can, we can pull folks in along the way. All right. So with that, we, again, today and tonight, we just wanted to give a bit of an overview to get the conversation started. So initially, we're just going to touch on the basics, and a number of you might be familiar with the basics, but so we're all in the same understanding. You know, our housing element needs to abide by the state law, and it needs to plan to meet not just our existing, but our projected housing needs for all economic segments of the community. It's one of the 7 required elements by the state for cities to have in their general plan. And housing elements are unique in that these days they need to be updated every 8 years. And the other unique thing, it's one of the elements in the general plan that has to go through a process of being certified and approved and reviewed by HCD, otherwise known as California Department of Housing and Community Development. So the picture on the right is our existing housing element. Another basic is that the housing element planning period, which was mentioned earlier, is for the 8-year period of 2021 to 2029. Technically, the law says it's to be adopted by your councils by October 15th, 2021. A lot of us cities are having a challenge with that. So the backstop is that it needs to be at least approved within 120 days of that October 15th, which lands you to February, mid-February of 2022. And that needs to be met. Otherwise, you go back to having to update your housing element every 4 years, among other things. But that's one of the downsides of if you don't meet the timelines. So we plan to meet the timelines. Then again, in general terms, all housing elements have some basic components that are detailed in state law and that make, that you need to sort through to make good planning decisions. So the first one is it needs to include an assessment of the city's housing needs. And then also it needs to have different evaluations of any kind of constraints to producing housing in your particular community. We also need to, in the element, evaluate our past housing programs that are in our element. And then also, with that kind of information, look at revising our goals and policies and programs as appropriate. The other key component that gets a lot of conversation is that we also need to identify specific acreage, specific land that would accommodate the what's called our RENA allocation. So in Santa Ana, that's a little over 3,000 housing units. So cities need to show where they have land that's zoned that in theory, this residential need could be fulfilled, again, driven by the market. And then another key thing these days is that there's been a lot of new legislation related to housing, and our housing element needs to address that as well. And some of those housing element details we'll be going into over the next couple of meetings. So just for a little perspective, one related outreach item that has a lot to do with housing is our Consolidated Plan that you might be familiar with. And Judson Brown, our housing division manager who's with us tonight, it's through his department that this is completed. And so as you can see, it was just completed for the horizon through 2024. It included a needs assessment that went out to the community. And this plan is required for cities to access important federal funding for housing programs, which some of you I'm sure are very familiar with. That includes community development block grant funds, home investment partnership, and emergency solution grants, all funding that helps support housing programs and in some cases, new construction. Another related effort and outreach is, of course, our broader general plan update that's been going on since late 2015, 2016. And that, of course, included surveys and workshops that talked and discussed not only land use and mobility, but 9 other elements or topics with a special focus on environmental justice. And as many of you might know, the last couple of months have been having dialogue with our environmental justice disadvantaged communities and getting their feedback and involvement. So as with the housing element, the general plan, its purpose is to identify the city's long-range goals and policies. One thing to note is that through the broader general plan effort, we identified 5 core values by the community, and we'll be filtering those as well into the housing element. Equity, sustainability, health, culture, those are the core values. So just to touch really quick on the timeline. So we're in the midst of jumping into our roundtable meetings in June, and we really appreciate the time that you're going to be contributing to help us with that. They will each have a slightly different focus. So tonight is kind of an overview, but in the future workshops, the next one will be delving into housing and livable neighborhoods and the policies in our general plan that all relate to that topic. And then the following workshop, we'll be looking more at housing supply and diversity, new construction, that kind of thing. And then importantly, we'll be looking at the last workshop, focusing more on special needs, fair housing and assistance, that sort of thing. So in addition, in the summer, we're targeting for mid-late July to release a citywide housing survey to tap into the broader community, and then also have a community forum in later in July. And of course, we'll be looking for all the folks in the roundtable to, help us get the word out and increase the involvement. And so fall is when we're looking at getting the draft element complete and released for the public. Of course, we'll be coordinating with Planning Commission, City Council, and going through public review. Again, that draft document needs to go up to the state. State has 60 days to review it, make sure it meets all the different legal requirements. And then, of course, we'd have our adoption dates and adoption hearings. So with that, I'm just going to touch on just a few examples that kind of frame the existing housing need. So some stats. So the next few slides are actually pulled from some information that was gathered by the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, as a tool to help cities to kind of facilitate their housing element process and provide information that would be helpful. So this one touches on the fact that housing costs are steadily increasing faster than our wages are. So the notion that the median sales price for a home is about $500,000, and that you can see how that growth is just continuing. The yellow line is the average sales price in the SCAG region, which is a good portion of Southern California. And then Santa Ana is the bluer color. So again, housing costs are increasing again faster than wages. And this is an example of a average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment that is estimated to be $1,700. And just accenting the fact that 64% of renters in Santa Ana spend more than 30% of their income on housing, which is considered, beyond what is a healthy balance. So you can see the trends to the left. It's 2015. The peak is right about mid 2017, and then it continues on through April of 2020. So this graph just highlights what some of us might already be familiar with, but in terms of Santa Ana, our persons per household, or average household size, is 4.3 persons, as compared with across Orange County as a whole, where the average is 3.0. So the columns that you see here are the number of persons per household by renter, owner, and total. So for instance, if we look at the far left column, 1 person per household, you can see that that's a smaller percentage. And if you go all the way over to the right series of columns, that's where there's 7 persons per household. And so you see in the middle here where our average is 4.3, that's where the columns are more consistently higher for both renter and owner. But you can see the trends where, like, for instance, going back to the 7+, the ownership column actually, so it's telling us that single family homes potentially are having a higher persons per household than, for instance, some apartments and some of the other numbers here too. So again, Santa Ana has been known for being a younger population. 27% of our population in Santa Ana is under 28 years, with the median age around 31. So this graph breaks it down by owner and renter and the different age groups. So for instance, if we'll just pick the ages 35 to 44, there's a large number of renters in comparison to ownership. And then if you go to the age range of 45 to 54, it's balanced. So, these kinds of statistics just give us insight into the patterns in our community, and so we can plan better for the future. So one other component of existing housing need is, of course, our homeless population, and just wanted to share some facts from the point in time survey that was done in 2019. So the survey was broken up into 3 different areas, and Santa Ana is in what's called Central County. And of the, so that point in time identifies over 1,800 homeless, unsheltered individuals in that area. And of that, 830 of those unsheltered individuals are in Santa Ana. And then if we go down to the middle point, just emphasizing that for Santa Ana, within our boundaries, the estimate is that there's 1,769 homeless individuals, and that 939 of those were identified as sheltered. And again, as we mentioned earlier, 830 are actually unsheltered. And then there's 2 other resources that also talk and evaluate homeless issues, and that's through the Consolidated Plan and what's called the 2020 Annual Action Plan, which we'll hear about a little bit later. So one other thing to touch on is the fair housing requirements.
Melanie, we
Yes.
we had a couple of questions. So Mireya was asking, I think this was the graph before the homelessness slide. Mireya wanted to know what year that graph is from. It's the one that explains the homeownership, rentership. Yeah, this one. They wanted to know what year.
This data was all published in April of I think just recently, 2021 from SCAG. So I can double check, but it would be the most recent, I imagine, the American Community Survey from the census.
And then we had an earlier comment of, this was from Thrive from Luis, that the definition of equity in our general plan seems misleading to him. And according to Luis, the equity to many in the community means moving resources to where they are needed most, or they're most needed, excuse me. And then Commissioner Ramos was asking if we can share the definition, like on the chat, of how the city defines equity.
Sure. Alyssa, if you have a moment and can go to the general plan website, and if you open up any of the elements, it gives the definition of the values, one being equity. So we'll follow up on that.
Okay. And then just one last thing that we have from Commissioner Ramos. When will the 2021 point in time count numbers be available? She's interested in seeing how the pandemic may have changed the numbers.
Right. Judson, do you happen to have any insight on that?
You know, team, what would be helpful, because I know our goal today is to get everybody, the team here, all on the same basic understanding. Let Melanie go through her information first, and then what we can do is have time at the end of her presentation to go through systematically the comments, so that way we address everything. But at least let Melanie get the information out first, and then we'll go into the next part of our program.
Sounds good. And then in the meantime, maybe Judson will be checking on the point in time for Commissioner Ramos. Thank you, Min. So, so we were just touching on fair housing. So with the new legislation, Assembly Bill 686, there's a higher level of evaluation that needs to go into analyzing the barriers that restrict access to anyone to housing opportunities, and that we need to commit to meaningful actions for affirmatively furthering fair housing. And we'll talk about this more in our last session when we talk about special needs and fair housing. But essentially, it's about, we were talking just a moment ago about equity. It's providing equitable access to all types of housing, affordable housing, and in many ways, it's a regional issue, so that you can find reasonable housing wherever you want to locate, and there's no restrictions or barriers to that. So we'll touch on that further. So the next thing we wanted to touch on is some of the accommodations for future housing needs. So as many of you are familiar with the term RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment is allocated to cities. And again, it's based on a number of things, but it essentially is to project our housing need. And there's different criteria like proximity to transit, proximity to job centers, et cetera. So for our region, the SCAG region, the state assigned us a very large number, 1.34 million. And so for Santa Ana, we were allocated a relatively reasonable number. And part of that is because we, in the methodology as a disadvantaged community, we were given a little bit lower number. And as you can see, they adjusted things so that we have certainly we're going to be pursuing as much affordable housing as we can. But as far as the RHNA goes, you can see the numbers, how it's broken down for very low, 586, low, 362, and then moderate is about 17% of our total. And then you see above moderate is about 52. So that's what we're required to find land and zoned appropriately that could accommodate that growth. So again, just touching on what is affordable. And so this is just one example of, for a young family, 2 working parents and 2 children with say a 3-bedroom situation. If they're a moderate income family where between the 2 of the working parents, they earn, let's go to the low one actually. If they're earning together somewhere between 67,000 and 108,000, to spend no more than 30% of their income for housing, the monthly rent that they could afford is a $1,600 a month rent. And then if they were looking at purchasing, they would be needing to look at a house that was a value of approximately $264,000. So that's just for perspective. So again, who are we talking about? Who needs affordable housing? It's our children's teachers, some of our friends, our college graduates that are just coming out of school, parents and retirees, our essential workers, many more. So a lot of folks. And then, so the basics on, as we move forward, how will we accommodate this future need? And so some of the key areas will be, we have some existing residential projects that are proposed and some that have just recently been built. So that's one component. And this map on the right is actually a map that's available on our website that shows development activity in the city. And then we'll also be looking at potentially vacant land, the limited vacant land we have, or underutilized land, if it's needed, to show that there's enough area for those 3,000 units. Some of our, and then of course, we have the opportunity for accessory dwelling units that the state has encouraged, almost mandated cities to be open to, and look for that opportunity. And then the other note is that whatever land and areas we find that would accommodate those 3,000 plus units, we need to have it built, or at minimum maintain those housing sites as opportunities that could be constructed on through 2029 through our planning horizon. So with that, we're going to transition to some of our current activities that we have been involved in as a city to promote affordable housing. And with that, I'm going to transition this back over to Judson Brown, our Housing Division Manager, to highlight those things. Judson?
Thank you so much, Melanie. So we have quite a bit of things going on to promote and develop more affordable housing opportunities in our community. The largest of which starts with our Housing Choice Voucher Program. Our Housing Choice Voucher Program has the authority to assist up to 2,699 households with regular Section 8 vouchers, and then 648 additional vouchers for special purpose populations, special needs populations. It's by far our largest housing resource in the community, with a budget of over $35 million per year to provide much needed rental assistance and subsidies to families, extremely low income families in our community. Most recently, we did start calling families off of our waiting list again, and did call 400 new families off of our waiting list within the last 2 weeks. And we're expecting to issue 200 regular vouchers over these next 4 months. So we're excited about that. Our next is our Housing Opportunity Ordinance. Our Housing Opportunity Ordinance has been in existence since 2011 and has actually generated over, oh gosh, I forget the number off the top of my head. I believe it's at least $20 million in inclusionary housing funds that we have used to develop affordable housing opportunities. And I'm going to actually pull that number for you. Let me see here. So since 2011, a total of 33 units have been developed on site as a result of the ordinance, including 23 ownership units for sale and 10 rental units. And then since 2011, our inclusionary ordinance has generated $21.5 million in lieu fees for the development of affordable housing. So it has been a very effective ordinance to fulfill our affordable housing goals and meet our RENA requirements and fulfill the goals under our housing element, current housing element. We've highlighted some of the projects here that we have completed over these last 5 years, and we financed and over these last 5 years in partnership with our tremendous partners in the community, including CNC Development and Meta Housing and AmCal and of course community development partners, all of whom are on the call with us today. Next slide. This is the Andalusia project that was developed by our partners at CNC Development. Thank you very much to Barry Cottle and his team for the tremendous work that they did to develop this project. And this provides all 3-bedroom units for large families, which is the most important target population in our community of large families, extremely low income large families of a key target population that we work hard to provide affordable housing for. And this project did that with all 100% 3-bedroom units. Next slide. This is another project by our partners at CNC. Again, thank you very much to Barry and his team, called the Deepwood Santiago, which is right across from our train station, on a beautiful new project here with a total of 69 units, affordable to families ranging from 30% to 60% AMI. And this project actually includes 16 units for special needs populations as well. So it's both a project with 26 units, 26 3-bedroom units for large families, 29 units for two bedroom units, and then of the total, the 69 units, 16 of those units were designated for special needs populations. A good mix between large family households as well as special needs populations that you see with many of the projects that we financed here in the city to meet our goals. Next slide, please. This project actually was one of the first permanent supportive housing projects that the city had ever financed and opened in 2018. This is the Orchard project that was developed by our partners at Community Development Partners under the leadership of Kyle Payne. Thank you very much to Kyle and his team for their work to develop this project. And this project was a motel rehabilitation project long before it became commonplace across the state, long before Project Home Key. Kyle and his team renovated the Aqua Motel. I'm sorry, not the Aqua Motel. I forget the name of this. The Guest House. I'm sorry, the Guest House Motel.
That's right.
Got it right. and converted it into 71 units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals. This is a tremendous example of a 100% permanent supportive housing project for a special needs population developed by our partners at Community Development Partners. And of additional projects that we've had, we have financed to assist special needs populations include, like I mentioned, the 16 units at the depot at Santiago. And then for our partners at Jamboree Housing, they completed the construction of our Heroes Landing project in June 2020 to provide 75 units for homeless veterans. The Santa Ana Arts Collective, if you think, hey, the diversity of projects that the city has to meet our housing element goals, the Santa Ana Arts Collective is a great example of a project where not only is it serving low-income artists in our community to contribute to the arts and culture of Santa Ana, but it also has 15 units for special needs populations as well. And then most recently, our partners at Community Development Partners completed the construction of Casa Carencia, which is, again, a motel conversion project that converted the old Aqua Motel that was at that location into a 100% permanent supportive housing project for chronically homeless individuals. So we have a wide array ranging from Andalusia to Casa Carencia to the Orchard to the Arts Collective of projects that we have financed and have been completed over the last 5 years. And we have even more projects in the pipeline. Sure, I don't think it's on the next slide. Next slide, though. Yeah, I'll just close that we have many other projects in the pipeline that we have funding commitments for, including our Westview House project that's being developed by Community Development Partners. Our Crossroads at Washington project that's being developed by Related. Our Lacey and Vance project, which is 2 units, 2 ownership units being developed by Habitat for Humanity. And then of course, Gina, you're on in the meeting with us. And not going to forget FX Residences, our FX Residences project that's being developed by our partners under Gina's leadership at Homemade Orange County. But we have a lot, again, starting with that framework of our Housing Choice Voucher Program and using the resources that have been generated through our inclusionary housing ordinance. We are definitely doing everything possible to promote and provide affordable housing for our community. Thanks so much, Melanie. Back to you.
Thanks, Judson. So, so that was just a very light, if you will, overview of some facts and information regarding the housing element and the city's efforts. As Judson was saying, all the great outcomes. We've done some really good work with our partners, and we've got a lot more work to do. We have essentially almost an hour, and what we wanted to invite is allow for questions and such as well. But we wanted to see, with all the folks that are on the round table from different perspectives and different expertise, we wanted to kind of encourage the conversation to answer, what do you see as maybe the 2 greatest opportunities or challenges to improving the quality of housing in Santa Ana. And with the feedback and the discussion we have, that'll help us further refine our meetings for the rest of the month, maybe enhance them a bit. So maybe we can start with someone that had a question, Margarita, and then maybe they can dovetail into being one of the first to share with us what they see as the greatest opportunity, 1 or 2 greatest opportunity or challenge for improving the quality of housing in Santa Ana.
Okay, we'll start. I know that Carla had a question about the RENA numbers, about who decides the RENA numbers. I think that was a clarification that Carla would like to know.
Okay, so let me do a quick response to that, and then while I'm doing that, Carla can be thinking of how she might answer the question. How's that? So the RENA numbers, we're part of the Southern California Association of Government area. And there's a process whereby that organization creates a methodology on how they think those numbers, so that 1.3 million that we were assigned for our region, what's the best way to disperse those numbers? And there's quite a process, a lot of input, public hearings, et cetera, to do that methodology. And so at the end of the day, the SCAG policymakers, which in the past, Michelle Martinez was one of the board members on SCAG. And today, Councilman Becerra is on the regional council now. So all the folks that are on the regional council ultimately act upon the methodology, and then that translates to numbers. Ours was 3,000 plus. And so essentially the policymakers on that organization ultimately approve those numbers and are allocated to the cities. And Carla, I could, and anyone else that's interested, there's a PowerPoint or two that kind of walks through some of the components of that methodology. As I touched on earlier, some of the aspects that they look at is because, part of housing these days is to complement it with transportation so that we're reducing greenhouse gas, we're having more livable, healthy communities. So part of that methodology, as I mentioned earlier, deals with proximity to transit, proximity to employment centers, so that the housing, so that things are better integrated. But there's a big formula. Bottom line is the policymakers on the SCAG Regional Council formally allocate those numbers.
This is Min, and just to add to Melanie's explanation of where the number and how the number arrives. But to go back to even a higher level, the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development is the state department that's responsible and is charged with, under state housing law, to evaluate the housing needs of the various regions in California. And with their data and their information, they're the agency that actually sends down to the various association of government like SCAG on the number of housing units that are determined to be the need for that region. So these are numbers that SCAGs are dealing with, that is basically provided and required by the state to provide housing for. So at the end of the day, it is the state of California that assigns these numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't reduce the number. We just allocate it. Thanks, Ben. So hopefully that answered your question, Carla. And did you want to be the first to provide your thoughts on what you see as two, no more than two, if you opportunities or challenges?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Carla.
If you could please go back to the slide where you showed the numbers, because I don't think I was able to articulate my question. There
you go.
So what I'm very confused is, because I believe, maybe this is, I might be incorrect, that there's less people that have above moderate income. Doesn't make sense why there's more units allocated to people with above moderate.
So cities like Santa Ana that have a higher poverty level have more disadvantages. Part of what the RENA methodology tried to achieve is balancing that out so that other cities that maybe have more advantages, have more resources, that they should actually have a little higher goal to provide low income, very low income and moderate income. So that's where they're trying, the the aim is to balance it out. So while Santa Ana has a need to create more affordable housing, in the bigger scheme, the methodology was to help have a equal equity among cities, so that I'll say the Yorba Lindas or the Newport Beaches that, you know, kind of known to have not that much affordable housing, that their allocation actually requires them a little higher number for low and very low to balance it out. Kind of like
so
go ahead.
thank you, Melanie. And what the state is trying to do is taking the issue of affordable housing as a statewide concern, and then when it chooses the allocation for each region, the region on its own. So for us, we're looking at Orange County, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County. The SCAG board evaluate how each county is providing affordable housing and make their adjustment through their methodology to where areas that have traditionally not provide affordable housing to create the opportunity so that it balances out. And as a region, everybody is participating in the fair share of providing housing. As you know, the city of Santa Ana has been very active in producing affordable housing, but the need is so great. And, you know, what the SCAG is looking at is that we have done, while we have done a lot, the need is so great that we need to make sure that other cities do their fair share, other counties do their fair share of providing affordable housing. So that's why their numbers may not make sense to someone living in Santa Ana that says, well, we have so much needs here. Why would they look at, you know, so much above moderate? They're looking at a greater region than just the city of Santa Ana. But this is, regardless, is what the state law requires for us to, at the minimum, provide. So, you know, this is what we need to do in order to meet our fair share, and not necessarily this is what we're aiming to produce. Our goal is always to meet and, you know, as we have done in the past, even exceed this. So that's just kind of give you some background and preference, reference as to these numbers.
Would it be all right to, Cesar has his hand up. I think he might have something to add to the conversation on this.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think Min covered the last part of it. I think these numbers are always intended to be goals and not necessarily the absolute numbers that you have to meet. As Min mentioned, I think the goal is always to create housing that's affordable, especially when there's a high need in the community. And through further funding for housing, we also want to make sure that we're addressing existing needs in the community, regardless of what that RHNA number is. We have to do that analysis.
Thanks, Cesar. So hopefully that answered, that helped to clarify a little bit more, Carla. Maybe we can go to the next person that has a question and see if they're prepared to answer give some thoughts on the greatest opportunity or challenge for improving.
So we have, Melanie, I'm just looking at, there's a lot of comments on the chat, and there's a question by Orlando Martinez. Just to clarify, the Housing Choice Voucher Program does not generate affordable units and does not contribute to our RHNA progress, correct? They're asking for that clarification.
I would say yes. Judson, are you still with us?
Yes, of course, I'm here.
So, oh yeah, I see you. So it does both, doesn't it?
Yeah, great question, Orlando. So the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the tenant-based housing that we provide, the tenant-based vouchers that we provide through a typical Section 8 voucher that's issued to a family who searches for a unit in the private market and then leases that unit with our housing authority's assistance. No, you're very right. That does not count towards our RHNA progress and our RHNA goals. However, as our partners at Community Development Partners and Homemade and CNC could attest, when we take a Section 8 voucher and we project base that voucher, we're then able to use that funding to provide more affordable housing opportunities. And so take, for example, the Deepwood Santiago project that you saw earlier. We took 8 Section 8 vouchers and we project-based them, and they were able to finance a portion of the development of the Deepwood Santiago. And then same for Andalusia. We took 8 project-based vouchers and combined that with other sources of financing, and that went to finance the development of Andalusia. We have many other examples where we've taken Section 8 vouchers and we project-based them, and they've been used to develop to meet our RENA goals. Great question.
So I just want to add, Melanie, if we can continue with our opportunity to answer these questions, but also ask the question holder to answer this question, because this is really an opportunity for us to listen to what you see. The reason why you're invited here and really our goal is because you do have expert knowledge of our community in your areas of expertise, and we want to hear your perspective and view as the answer to these questions. So I just want to make sure that we also have an opportunity to answer the questions you may have, but also that we continue to work through this mission that we have to address the housing issue for our community. So please be prepared to answer what you see as the greatest opportunity or challenge, and maybe just one each. Don't even have to come up with 2, but one each, one opportunity and one challenge to improving the quality of housing in our city. And just rest assured, whatever questions you do put in the chat, we can definitely follow up with you. So I saw some hand raised, see a few raised hands. Which raised hand would like to answer the question for us?
I have Carl Benninger. He's had his hand raised for a while.
Great.
Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, hi. Question that I was asking earlier was a question of, we have a lot of projects in the pipeline. Do those units go against our numbers were required for the years 21 to 29? Will those meet, and how many units are there?
So Carl, I'm gonna try to redirect. I'm gonna say that we will answer that question in very much detail on the 3rd meeting when we talk about new construction.
Then I'm going to go answer your question.
Okay, good.
I think opportunity and challenge is land. One, the challenge is how much land do we have that we can use? And it's also an opportunity because I've seen units go into areas where I never would think that they would fit into. And also, hats off to the developers who have creatively gone up and made it look pleasant in many ways. So I think if I had to single one word for both a challenge and an opportunity, it'd be land.
Thanks, Carl. And we'll definitely get you that detail. And, sneak trailer, yes, the pipeline projects get counted. Depending on the dates.
I'll continue, Melanie. We have Cesar. Go ahead, Cesar.
Sure, thank you. I think in looking at the data that was presented today and data that's presented in the past, Element, it's pretty clear that large families are a big part of Santana. Large families who have low income and large families that need affordable housing. So that continues to be a challenge. And looking at a lot of our investments that we have done over the years, I think we've done quite a bit to try and balance that, understanding that there's been a critical need to respond to homelessness and to permanent supportive housing. I still see that large family affordable housing needs to be a priority in the city as an opportunity when we move forward on that what I do see is also making sure that when we are creating land use opportunities, that we are creating the space for those affordable housing developments that are going to respond to that need that's a large need in the city. We are mindful that we need to address it through our programs, as Judson laid out, all the city programs that are there, along with strengthening the housing opportunity ordinance and making sure that we're looking at land use as a way to also address that. Don't just rezone and create development opportunities without taking into consideration what are the needs of the community and what are we trying to address. So again, making sure that the land use general plan and specific plans address specifically affordable housing needs.
So I heard the opportunity constraint is really focusing on large families, particularly those with challenged incomes, and then the land use. Would you say the land use opportunity? You're talking about not just the land. Could you elaborate on that just a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. The need, I think, is just going back to what is the biggest need in the city. And I'm looking at the old numbers from the fifth cycle, but almost 80% of the population falls into low, very low, and extremely low income families.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's changed much, but we'll see the new numbers. But
Right.
what I want to see that we also look at as an opportunity is to look at all these other programs that we have in place, as Judson laid out and other staff has laid out, multiple programs in the city, but also looking at land use, rezonings, the general plan as the opportunity also to enhance and leverage all those programs to ensure that affordable housing gets built into these new opportunity areas that we're contemplating for expansion of development. Along with that, I also mentioned increasing the affordable housing ordinance to ensure that it helps create those opportunities.
Thanks, Cesar. Very good.
We have Marianne. So go ahead, Marianne.
Hi, thanks. Well, one of the things that we notice in our city, as well as in other cities when we drive through, are blocks and blocks of empty office buildings. And I would see that as an opportunity or a challenge, because it's not good for a community to have so much space taken up with nothing in it really, and having the land possibly be repurposed or the buildings be repurposed or something to make that a different situation.
Para hacer una situación diferente.
Okay. Thanks, Marianne. I can picture what you're talking about.
Yes, right here on 17th Street.
Great. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
Yes, Melanie, we have Luis from Thrive Santana.
Very good, Luis.
Thank you. So I'll try to be quick. I have some notes of things I want to,
Tengo unas notas.
and I'm also hearing the
Estoy
interpretation.
aquí.
Margarita,
Estoy-
we can hear your interpretation.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, Margarita. So one or just want to echo on the importance of land. I'm glad that was mentioned, and also I also agree that we should go above and beyond the RENA requirements. Seeing that there's such a high number of for the moderate income, I think that we need to go above those requirements to provide housing for our communities who are most vulnerable to displacement. There's a lot of communities in Santana who contribute profoundly to the fabric and to the identity of Santana as a city. So we should make sure that above and beyond the requirements we meet those needs. And in two things I'd like to mention in terms of the question, the greatest opportunity or challenge to improving the quality of housing. I feel there are, or I've learned in the last several years working with our in this area that there are many sources of funding and financing for housing that we're not accessing. In fact, I was looking at a newsletter from SCAG recently and seeing a bunch of funding opportunities that from my analysis of the situation, what I've learned so far is that the city and developers don't necessarily have the capacity, the staff time to be seeking all of these different sources of funding. So my suggestion would be to build capacity for community-driven planning and development, forming partnerships between resident-driven and neighborhood groups with developers who understand the need to get behind local vision. And so that's one, being able to work collaboratively to bring in more funding to the city in order to provide more affordability and more units, which are needed in our city. And then also the use of alternative models, including the community land trust model, tenant opportunities to purchase, housing cooperatives, and others. So those are some things that I think are great opportunities and challenges.
Thanks very much, Luis. Appreciate that. All right, anyone else? Any more brave souls out there?
Melanie, this is Barry Cottle.
Hi, Barry.
Just to kind of keep this quick, we see it as the greatest opportunity in our firm and ourselves is we develop affordable housing in about 12 different cities. And I'm not saying this because we're on a phone call with the city, but I think one of our greatest opportunities for us is working with the city staff and the city council and the city planning commission. And out of those 12 or so cities we work with, the city of Santa Ana is right at the top, is what they are. You're right at the top of other cities because we have obstacles, we have problems, we have bumps in the road, and it really is like a partnership with the city. And that's makes a lot of our projects feasible. The greatest challenge, just quickly, probably two things. One, Carl talked about also, is finding land and buying the right sites. It's very, very difficult. We've always looked under every rock in Santa Ana. Our first affordable project on Santa Ana Boulevard, we've owned almost 30 years now. And we've always just looked under different parts of the city, different quadrants, but we look under every rock and look for vacant land. And now, of course, underutilized land. And the second thing we won't touch upon tonight or much time, that's the challenge is financing. Financing has changed a lot over the years since we first started 30 years ago. And everybody on the staff will remember, we had redevelopment agencies. We did a lot of acquisition rehab in difficult locations like Minnie Street, Cornerstone, Townsend Rate. Made it very difficult when redevelopment went away. Now it's very competitive with tax credit financing and all the other sources. So that would be finding the land and financing would be the challenges I see.
Thank you, Barry. Let me help Margarita out here because I'm sure she is translating. So the next person I saw their hands was Dale. Is that Dale Helvik?
Yes, it is. Thank you, man. As several people have mentioned, I think the land is going to be the hardest thing. One of the things that I've heard throughout the course of time is the quality of life that people are looking for, and that's across all 6 wards. People want to have a quality of life environment, and in order to do that, we know that we're park deficient. We know that we need more land for park and open space. COVID has taught us that as well. And we have opportunities to purchase land that would improve the quality of life for all residents of Santa Ana. Willowick, it comes to mind. It's a great opportunity to improve the quality of life for everybody, especially those in Ward 1 and 2 and 5. So I'm hoping that we take a serious look at that. The RENA numbers are always disturbing to me because Santa Ana exceeded the numbers in every category. But my understanding is there's no reward for exceeding numbers. And in fact, what you do is you shortchange yourself on the next cycle. We added so many extra homes, you know, we were over 1,200%, I think, over our goals for the last reporting period, 2014 to 2020, but we don't get any credit for that. And in the meantime, we lose more land to that development, which is good in the fact that we're getting these houses built, whether it's extremely low income or moderate or whatever. But what we do is we're going to eventually get to a point, maybe not in this upcoming cycle, 21 to 29, but the next cycle, if RENA numbers come out even more than they are today, where are we going to get the land? We're going to continue to struggle for that land, and we're going to run into a brick wall at some point in time where we just can't add more homes to the city. So we need to keep that in mind. Judson mentioned that the Housing Opportunity Ordinance provided a lot of funding for affordable housing. Well, that's gone away now. The city council voted that out or reduced it, you know, to 1/3 of what it was before. I can't really remember right now, but a lot of it's gone essentially. And so we're going to be struggling in that aspect as well. The last thing I'd like to bring is we on this call have talked a lot about affordable housing, but yet, as some other callers have mentioned, the market rate makes up 52% of the housing that is going to be added in the RENA numbers. And so that kind of ties in with some other things that are happening in the state of California. There's some Senate bills that are being proposed right now that could drastically change how we deal with housing. Senate Bill 6 is in there, which essentially takes away business and shopping areas to provide luxury apartments. Senate Bill 8 wants to impose allow the developers to sue the cities if they don't approve luxury housing. Senate Bill 9 wants to essentially wipe out home ownership, which would allow taking a single family residence and putting in maybe, you know, the way they subdivide it, you can go from anywhere from 6 to 10 units in a residential neighborhood, because you can add all these ADUs, the splits, the multifamily residential areas and everything else. And that would be just haphazardly added into single family home neighborhoods. Senate Bill 10, Senate Bill 478, again, just jamming things into single family home areas versus infill on vacant property in other locations. Santa Ana is running out of land space, and it's going to be a challenge to provide all this housing. So it gets back to an original question I had: is there a reward for going above the limit? And I don't think there is, because there's a short-term reward in the fact that you're getting housing, but there's a long-term problem with doing that, because you're going to just essentially choke us off for the next round of numbers. And so I'm hoping that we keep that in mind. I know people want us to exceed the numbers, but unless there's a benefit for exceeding, you know, it doesn't benefit the city in the long run to do something like that. And so until SCAG changes their methodology of doing things, I don't think it's to our benefit to exceed any of the RENA numbers. And that's all I think I have. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Dale. I have Erlinda next, and then Victor, and then Haus, Santana, and then Isuri. So Erlinda.
Hi, thank you. Man, I have a lot of thoughts. To go on the issue of exceeding RENA allocations, I can agree with that, and I can also recognize that we have a lot of community members that are in desperate need of affordable housing. A lot of our families are very poor and are at risk of experiencing homelessness. So I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind. Although it is a short-term benefit, people need it. And this can lead to, higher numbers of homeless individuals. So that's my comment on that. The other thing is on that is that I think that there's a disconnect between the need for affordable housing and the supply. And I've actually studied this extensively. I do affordable housing work for a living, and I've actually done research with the Turner Center at UC Berkeley on this kind of stuff. And I think that, relying on RENA numbers to, and this is, I guess this is answering the challenge part of the question. I think that relying on RENA numbers to dictate how much affordable housing we actually develop can be, can hurt our community just because of what I mentioned before. Specifically because the Turner Center at UC Berkeley has studied this, and they've looked at the SCAG methodology, the SANDAC methodology, and the SACOG methodology for allocating RENA. And it's all different, right? This idea of the disadvantaged community limit is actually something that's only used in SCAG. And while I can agree with it generally, I remember talking to somebody at UC Berkeley, and they weren't even aware of the fact that SCAG uses the Callan viral screen to determine which communities are disadvantaged. So you have a community like Santa Ana that gets, 3,000 plus units, and then you have a community like Garden Grove that it's fairly similar to Santa Ana getting 19,000. And I'm not here to advocate for, Garden Grove or against Santa Ana, but I think that it really shows the disparity and how wild the difference is, and how this disadvantaged community determination can actually hurt our communities. It's difficult, right? Like affordable housing is a difficult subject. And I think that just relying on the fact that we're meeting RENA allocations isn't enough to actually meet the needs of our community. And those needs are really important because we have people living paycheck to paycheck who desperately need affordable housing, people who are overcrowding homes. I mean, we're just seeing this in city council last week. We're trying to, even crack down on folks that are overcrowding homes, but that's the only way that they can afford to live in Santa Ana. So I think that, yes, we have to meet our RENA numbers, but I think that we also need to look at the community needs and how we're meeting or not meeting those. I mean, even I was looking at a study by the Orange County, what is it? It's the Orange County Business Council, and they even show that Santa Ana has like a 12.0 ratio of new residents to new housing units. So, that in itself shows how much housing is actually needed. And I don't think that the RENA allocation shows that just because of this disadvantaged community determination. So yes, we're doing great, but yes, we can do more.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you. We have Victor next. Victor Cow.
Thank you, Min. The greatest opportunity, I think, is transit-oriented development. With the advent of the OC streetcar, I think it presents a lot of opportunity. I mean, there are two prominent existing affordable housing communities, at least in that immediate area that I know of. And with more transit-oriented development, there are federal, state, and even local funding opportunities. And what I mean by local funding opportunities is specifically on enhanced infrastructure financing districts. I think they can be a creative tool that can help offset at least the infrastructure that is needed to support new development. And so the opportunity here is to, again, partner with the development community and look at what the appropriate offsets may be. And what I mean by that is that you could potentially reduce a transportation fee or a parking fee because many of those of that infrastructure could be financed by EFIDs. And the way that works is roughly, it works similar to how RDAs used to work. It's tax increment financing. So I think it presents a very creative tool, and you can expand the tool to potentially other types of infrastructure needs, such as broadband. Being able to implement fiber within a community and get broader internet access. In addition to new streets and sidewalks and multimodal transportation options, I mean, those are some areas that the city needs to look at more comprehensively, in addition to its housing element to complement it and ensure that there are services other than just the housing itself. And the reason I bring up the funding opportunities as another participant had suggested is that one, residents are focused on quality of life. And so funding is a challenge because development is very costly. Another participant quoted, when I get the challenges, the greatest challenge is the cost of a development. The cost of doing anything in California is very expensive, the cost of living. But the cost of development, the Turner Center found it, I think their latest study pegged it at roughly $500,000 just for one unit. And so there are some costs that are within the city's control, and there are many that are out of its control. The primary drivers on costs right now, definitely labor. After at least the 2008 crash, a lot of that labor force is no longer here. And so that's a new workforce that needs to be found. And because there's a scarce workforce, that's a higher cost. The cost of construction, everyone has drawn their attention to higher costs of lumber, for example. The National Association of Home Builders found that their costs went from, was it $350 up to $1,200 per, like it was like a linear foot of lumber. And so those are some of the other issues. The costs that are maybe out of your control, of course, are land acquisition, as other panelists have, or other guests have addressed. And so the question about appropriate density is something that the city definitely needs to look at, being very creative about infill opportunities. And if we're talking about going above and beyond affordable housing goals, then we should go above and beyond about, for example, density bonus opportunities as well. Because the cost of regulatory compliance is very challenging, whether it's time or the actual hard dollars. There's a great website at the Urban Institute. It's called The Cost of Affordable Housing, Does It Pencil Out? And you can actually go in there and see how certain things influence a project, such as subsidies or even higher costs. And so it's something that I recommend you all look into. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Victor. Hayal Santana, and then we have Isuri, and then Cesar.
Yes, thank you. And it's pronounced Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah, no worries. But I think just to provide input, in particular, I work with the Sullivan and Acción group, and it's called the Sullivan Community. It's composed of mobile homes, condominiums, apartments, and single-family homes. And it's from McFadden to First, for those of you who might know the area. But I think an issue that I find most commonly in conversations with residents who live within this area is that unfortunately, most of the properties tend to be mandated by statewide policies. So I think for me, I did post some questions earlier on the chat. I then noticed that I had to put them on the Q&A to be discussed and addressed. But if we can follow up on the questions, I think it'd be definitely helpful. I'm not sure how much time we have to discuss the questions, but I think just in general, I want to see how we can support the city of Santana address policies currently in place by the state to pretty much change and see if it's possible to, try to put input and consider the demands and the needs of our community here in Santana, because these are issues that we've been encountering for so long, so long. I think it's also the reason why there's so much overcrowding, especially in this Sullivan community. There's issues with parking. There's issues with high rise on, unfortunately, people being displaced. Property owners with intimidation tactics. People with the fear of being evicted from their homes. I think these are issues that have been, increasing day by day. But unfortunately, because there isn't any support from the city at the moment, I think it's very hard to really tackle on these issues. And I think for the most part, how can the city of Santana reconsider buying properties from, people or corporations, like landlords or people who don't live here in Santana in general? How can we repurchase these properties so that we can, provide more Santana residents with the opportunity to purchase these properties overall, and also, support our residents who may need to rent. But I think it was just, something that I wanted to mention because, within this community, there's 2 apartment complexes and 4 mobile homes, and then 1 condominium. And then there's a lot of single family homes. But I think it's just a very important aspect that I wanted to share, because I'm pretty sure there's there's many more communities here in Santana that may be composed with a similar the similar type of housing complexes. But I think there's definitely more that we should consider in doing for Santana community members. But that was it, and I'm sorry, I did just want to mention this because I think it's very important. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Isabel Ramos.
Hi, everyone. I can agree with a lot of what has already been said. And I want to speak to the greatest opportunity to improve the quality of housing in Santana. And I see 2, or 2 that I want to focus on right now. The first one being the Housing Opportunity Ordinance. I know that it was mentioned earlier by a few other speakers, and I believe that in the next couple of months, the city will be revisiting the changes that were made to that ordinance last year, where it was unfortunately weakened and the new fee was significantly reduced. So I see a great opportunity being strengthening that ordinance to ensure that the city will have increased funding to build new affordable housing. I know that we've heard many times that the city met their RENA allocation. They built the number of units that they needed at very low, but we all know that there continues to be extreme need. And we've also seen that some of the affordable housing developments that have been recently built and that have rents that are a bit higher are having a hard time leasing up. And I want to specifically mention the development over by First Street and the 5 Freeway, the senior affordable housing units. I know those haven't been fully leased. And I want to say that one of the biggest reasons is because they're not truly affordable. And we don't have that great of a need for senior affordable housing. I know our greatest need is for family affordable housing. So I hope that we can see the Housing Opportunity Ordinance be strengthened this year, and that the RFPs that go out for those funds can really target the city's greatest need. And the second opportunity I want to talk about is Willowick. So I know that the city only has so much control over Willowick, and the city of Garden Grove is also involved. But Willowick provides a great opportunity to both provide affordable housing that is greatly needed by Santana residents, and also to provide amenities that will improve the quality of life, not just for the residents of that neighborhood, but the entire city and even the county. And I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Siri. Next, we have Cesar. Cesar?
Thank you. I just want to add that a tremendous opportunity coming to us here in Santana will be the influx of money that will be coming into California and California communities for housing, for affordable housing. So Governor is saying $12 billion will be committed to promote supportive housing and affordable housing. The ARPA funds that are available to Santana and to the county, $650 million to the county, $140 million to Santana. And then the contemplation of an infrastructure proposal at the federal level that will include also housing, affordable housing specifically, as one of the target areas. So I would say that, again, we need to make sure that as we're planning, preparing for this, and as we're doing our land use through the housing element in the general plan, we are preparing to leverage all this funding that will be available.
Thank you. Very good.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Next, we have the initial CEA.
Yes, hi, this is Hilda Ortiz with Latino Health Access. I also agree with much of what was already said. I think that an additional challenge, in addition to having to meet these RHNA requirements, but prioritizing the community needs, I think we also need to take into account the pandemic. That has obviously altered those numbers significantly. And we know, and reports are showing that the community is it's gonna take 7+ years for a community to recover, which is essentially the amount of time that the housing element would cover. So I think it's important to take that into account and advocate. We know that I believe it's in September that new census data is coming out. And so I think as much as possible, if we can prioritize and look at that new data to use to kind of guide community, what the community has been asking for and what they need. I think there's opportunities, much of what was already said, through strengthening policies and programs that we already have, like the Housing Opportunity Ordinance. Another thing I think that's very important is to understand that there's a huge connection, obviously, right, between housing and homelessness, and the housing as a prevention to homelessness, considering that the city, our city is majority renters or tenants. I think it's important to understand that policies like, strong just cause protections for tenants, right to counsel, first opportunity, tenant opportunity to purchase, all those also contribute to preventing and decreasing homelessness and provide opportunities for the people that are already living in the city, which I think is extremely important to consider when we are talking about building new housing.
Thank you. Was it Hilda?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Hilda. So at this point, I don't see an additional hands. We do have some time left. So anyone that hasn't spoken, please feel welcome to contribute to this conversation. And so far, I think, from my perspective, this has been a very robust conversation that we're having. And, we're here listening, and I'm taking down a lot of notes. So really appreciate the participation so far. We have another hand up here. Let me see, is Carla. Carla, you have spoken before. Let me just make sure if there's anyone else that hasn't spoken to speak. If not, we'll go to Carla. Go ahead, Carla.
Thank you. I think the challenge is going to be on, and I am confused if at the end of my comment you could clarify whether or not the RHNA numbers are mandatory to meet or if it's just like a goal.
Let me answer that question first, since you've been asking that question. The RHNA number is mandatory to meet, and in the past it has been a goal, but the state has made it so that it's mandatory. So it's the minimum numbers that the city has to be able to not only provide land availability for, but actively pursued and working towards meeting those goals. Now, earlier there was a comment that says, there may be no benefit to meeting or exceeding RENA, and I'm not here to make a judgment on whether or not meeting RENA is good or bad. I'm just going to share is that under state law, if the city doesn't meet the RENA number, what happens is that we lose our ability to have what we call self ability to make decision, or the home rule. Basically, the state could come in and impose exemption requirements that basically now anyone who's developing can come in and develop what is necessary without having to ask our local authority decision-making process. So by not meeting RENA, that's what's going to happen. We will lose our ability to control what occurs in our city. So hopefully that answers your question in terms of mandatory. And for a lot of the discussion here about what happens with meeting or not meeting RENA, again, I'm not here to pass a judgment on whether it's good or bad. But what happened with not meeting RENA is that our city, we as a community, lose our ability to say yes or no to develop.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. What the challenge is that if we're gonna use the 52%, the have to be built for above average or above moderate income, that it is gentrification. Knowing that most the population is renters, and we have families in need, low income or extremely low income, which is most of the cases, then building housing for above moderate income, and not just a few, but 52%, then the challenges that are going to be, they're going to be tragic. I mean, they're just crazy. And we do have land, and an opportunity that I see is that the land, the public land that we do have, that is I mean, there's a bunch of public land, but the city, it's a public land that the city owns, that residents own, because it's public land, could be used for housing without having to sell and privatize the land and have people kicked out of the city. Having those numbers, that 52% has to be built for the above moderate income. I myself I'm not above moderate income, so I am like just a little bit shaken, just knowing that, not just for me, but I'm also like concerned for family members and friends, knowing that this is the plan. And yeah, it's just okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for your comments. The next hand I see up is a representative from Thrive Santa Ana.
Yeah, thank you, Min. I also want to start off my comment by thanking city staff for all of your work around this housing element, and in general a lot of the planning that's going on in the city or around the general plan. Definitely, I understand that your task is a very big one, and that there's a lot of needs that are being communicated on the part of community members, and we the we are expecting a lot from these processes because we understand how important they are. And so thank you for being open to work with us, and definitely know that including myself, And I know several others on the call are very much ready to put the work in to to meet these needs that we see in our city. But I did want to start off by thanking you for the work that you're doing, and for your patience and um, I mentioned that also because I see that we're this is gonna be an ongoing conversation, and I know that there was a few ideas that I didn't get to mention today, and so I hope that we will have more opportunities to explore the best strategies moving forward. I want to echo the comment that Carla made about the use of public land, and that is a policy decision that could be made by the city. I know that we've had that conversation for many years now around the disposition of public land, and in the past, the city has argued that public land cannot be used because of the restriction of the funding that was used to purchase such land. However, we have many examples of cities and jurisdictions which have used remnant land from transportation projects to build affordable housing. The current requirements of the Surplus Land Act is kind of like the RENA requirements. It's a bare minimum, which does not meet the needs that we are seeing in our city. And so hopefully we can go beyond these minimum requirements to actually meet the needs that we're seeing.
Thank you. Is it Luis that's speaking?
Yes.
Thank you, Luis. I see the next hand up is a representative from Santa Ana BHC.
Yes, this is Idalia Rios. And well, I'm going to echo what Luis just mentioned. Thank you to city staff. I think lately they have been very proactive and to listen to the community needs, but not just listening. I think, as I mentioned, my word, it's housing is a basic need, and just by the statistics, we know that realistically, the pandemic has showed us many inequities. I really would like you guys to know the community, to really think about those families, and not just families, go beyond and think about the kids, the future of our residents. We really need to work for the future of Santana. Santana can make decisions and set up an example for the cities around us. And we need to be more proactive about really we really need to be more proactive about protecting our residents. It's not just about a roof over our head. It's really a basic need. The house can make such a big difference about our mental health, about education. If you really want to say the word equity, equity has to be a lifestyle, and you guys can mimic that. You guys can set up an example for all of us, and you have the power in your hands to make changes. So the only thing that I'm going to say is, please think about future generations, and think about all the people that are struggling with rents. Think about the people that they're not getting fair wages to provide a roof for their families. So I just want to say, think about others and be in their shoes when you're making decisions about the housing issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dalia. I see next we have Erlinda with your hands up, but Erlinda, let me take a moment here to see, because I thought I saw another hand up. Oh, Cesar as well. Okay, you both have had an opportunity to speak, so Linda, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering, I'm not like an expert in ADUs. I've looked into it a little bit, but I was wondering if maybe we could look into having some sort of program where the city can help convert certain illegal existing spaces. I think that sometimes those kind of spaces are criminalized, and it could be an opportunity for the city to generate affordable units at extremely low and very low income levels. If there's some sort of program to help folks who have been forced to generate their own affordable housing in their backyard, and it hasn't been, you know, done in the way that it's supposed to be done through the city. I don't know exactly if HCD would count those as arena units, but I think it would be worth looking into.
Thank you. And I'm gonna, break my rule a little bit and ask you a question rather than just being an active listener here. Is Erlinda, when you say program to assist conversion of legal space, are you talking about actual funding? Are you talking about regulatory relief? What is your goal in terms of the program here?
I think it would probably be a little bit of both, right? So if we have some sort of relief, like a regulatory relief program that would help folks, come to the city and say, I have the space and I didn't get building permits to create it. But I think that there's also a stage where these spaces have to be turned into livable spaces that comply with health and safety regulations. So I don't know exactly what it would look like, and I don't know if it would count as a RENA unit, but
It does. It does if it meets a certain income. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it would. I really don't know what it would look like exactly, but I think it could be an opportunity for the city to take something that's already built and have that count for RENA and sort of create units within the space that it already has without having to require new land to generate them. So
thank you,
yeah,
Yolanda.
I don't know exactly, but
No, I hear you. Thank you. And we have taken those notes. Cesar? And Cesar, just before you begin your message, I just want to say that we have
Sí, ¿me escuchan?
three. Hello?
Buenas tardes.
Hello?
Sí, mi nombre es César Medina de Sullivan
Oh,
Acción.
another Cesar.
Oh,
y
Cesar. Okay,
quiero
I'm
solamente
sorry.
hacer un
Go
poquito
ahead.
de historia. De 1930 hasta
Un momento.
1974, el Estado construía casas. No existían el problema que existe ahora. Ustedes me podrán decir que hay más inmigración y por lo tanto la necesidad de hacer casas aumentó. Sí, efectivamente. Los barrios también crecieron y la demografía de los habitantes crecieron. Pero también faltó voluntad política y voluntad de las autoridades para poder resolver este problema. Solo les pongo un ejemplo. Desde la calle McFadden hasta la calle 17, a lo largo de la calle Bristol, entre esas dos calles principales por la Bristol, conté 12 terrenos públicos, unos más grandes que otros. Que alguien me diga cuál es el déficit de viviendas en Santana. Que alguien me diga cuántas miles de familias están en Santana pagando renta o sufriendo por pagar renta y soñando con tener una casa. Que cuántos me digan que en una casa a veces hay 5 renteros, con lo cual se daña la salud y la privacidad de los que viven en esa casa. Por lo tanto, planteo de
Thank you.
los 139, 140, otros dicen
Hola,
180
César.
millones que
César, ¿me
recibe
puede escuchar?
la ciudad.
Cesar.
20 millones se aparten como subsidio
Yeah, I don't
para
think
que
you
los
can
constructores
hear us.
urbanistas se
César, ¿me
interesen
puede
en
escuchar?
hacer construcciones y viviendas para personas de bajos recursos.
Hola César, ¿me puede escuchar?
Sí,
¿Nos puede
para
permitir
personas de bajos recursos.
César, ¿nos puede
Y,
permitir a
y
traducir lo que
también,
está diciendo?
sí, le escucho.
Alyssa, if you can ask Cesar to pause, and then if you can help translate so that we all can be in on this conversation as well. I think
Yeah,
what he has to say is very important. We want to listen to it.
Sí, César, si nos puede permitir a que podamos traducir lo que está
Ok, está
diciendo,
bien.
todo es
No sé si
es
puedan
importante.
hacer la interpretación ahora. Quizás estoy un poco rápido, ¿no?
Sí,
Bueno,
sí,
yo
un
estaba
poco, pero
planteando,
si puede parar por un momento
ok,
para que podamos traducir. So he was mentioning how there's a lot of, empty lots along Bristol from 17th to McFadden, and how, although it is a big issue that there is not enough housing, there's a lot of overcrowding of housing, but that those empty lots, can be used for that. César estaba explicando sobre la calle Bristol, que mira mucho terreno que está vacío y que su pregunta es ¿por qué no estamos usando ese terreno?
bueno, el punto es lo que finalmente dije, un subsidio de 20 millones de lo que va a ingresar a la ciudad de Santa Ana por parte de los estados, que creo que si se gasta eso ya no va a haber otra oportunidad. No van a haber más cientos de millones de dólares cayendo constantemente. Por lo tanto, esta quizás sea la única oportunidad de hacer viviendas para personas de bajísimos recursos económicos, con promedios de ingresos bajos, que son la mayoría, pero que aspiran a ser propietarios de algo, a tener un activo, para poderlo disponer después de 20 a 30 años. Y también dinero para personas que tengan terreno, que quieren hacer mejoramientos en su vivienda. Es la única forma. Yo no veo otra forma, aparte del discurso académico, de resolver el problema de las viviendas asequibles. Gracias.
Gracias, Cesar.
Muchas
Thank you.
gracias, César. Yeah, and second, he added to use the money that the city is going to be receiving, to use it for those low-income households, which is the majority in Santa Ana, and to use it for like homeowners so they can use it to improve their homes, which is another big issue. And for the next coming years. Gracias, Cesar.
Thank you. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is 7:30. We have ongoing conversation for the next three Wednesday. So if you have additional comments that you want to share, please jot them down and we can continue this conversation. Since we do have 3 more meetings, I don't want to put any more stress. You spent since 5 o'clock with us, 5:30 with us today. I heard a lot of input, and many of the much of the information provided, both in terms of what you think of housing, in the one word, really share with me a lot about how this issue is very important to you, important to the community, and it's also important to the organization you represent. So this will be an ongoing conversation. And with that, Melanie, do you have any closing comments? And if you can also let us know the next meeting and the time.
Sure. Absolutely. So on the screen is the contact information if you needed to reach out or needed to follow up with us on anything. And then the Housing Element web link. And then the next meeting is a week from today. And we'll be focusing on housing and preserving livable neighborhoods. So we will send out some basic information to the roundtable folks. And we just look forward to additional conversation with a little bit more focus now. We'll be honing in on some of the programs and policies and as as well as, starting to package or see the themes on some of the comments that we've heard tonight and moving forward. So thanks for
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
There was a question earlier about whether or not we would put this presentation or send it out to the team. Is that something we?
Yes, we will put the PowerPoint will be placed online in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And we'll also post the link to this video of tonight's presentation.
Thank you. And for all of the folks that joined us here tonight, I know you had some questions in the chat as well. Just know that this meeting is recorded, both verbally and also the entire video log of this. And we do take notes, whether it's verbal or written. So just be assured that those questions will be part of our review of your input here today. With that, I want to say again, thank you for sharing your afternoon, and now it's the evening with us. Hopefully we can free up some time for you and enjoy your family. But until we meet next week, please stay healthy and good health. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Good night.